When most people open a trading account with just $100, their imagination explodes. In their head, $100 quickly turns into $500, then $1,000, and soon they're picturing quitting their job and living off the markets. This is the fantasy that destroys most traders. The truth is, turning $100 into life-changing wealth has nothing to do with speed. It's not about doubling your account in a week. It's about being able to think in years, even decades, instead of days. The mindset that makes this possible is what I call the compounding mindset. This mindset is built on one radical belief: slow, consistent, and disciplined growth will always outlast reckless attempts at fast money. Compounding is about patience, repetition, and protecting your capital at all costs. It's not flashy. It doesn't give you the adrenaline rush of gambling big and watching your balance swing wildly. But it's the same approach that built every great fortune, from Warren Buffett in investing to Jesse Livermore in trading. Here's the key difference. Most traders see $100 as pocket change, something they can burn and replace. The millionaire trader sees $100 as a seed. And what do you do with a seed? You don't eat it. You plant it. You water it. You protect it from storms. And if you keep digging it up to see if it's growing faster, you'll kill it before it ever sprouts. In trading, digging up the seed looks like overtrading, risking way too much, or jumping into setups just because you're bored. The $100 account forces you to build respect, because how you treat the small account is exactly how you'll treat the big one later. Here's a thought experiment. What if you grew your account by just 5% per week? On $100, that's only $5. Most people scoff at that, but watch what happens over time. At 5% weekly growth, $100 can turn into around $10,000 in less than 5 years. And if you maintain that same discipline with larger capital, the numbers snowball into hundreds of thousands, even millions. But most traders don't think this way. Instead, they risk 50% of their $100 on a single trade because they're desperate to shortcut the process. If they win, they're up $50 in one shot. But if they lose 2 trades in a row, they're practically wiped out, along with their confidence. This is where the compounding mindset separates the survivors from the quitters. Successful traders don't measure success by one trade or 1 week. They measure it across hundreds of trades, stretched over years. Take Richard Dennis, the commodities trader who famously turned around $1,600 into hundreds of millions. He didn't do it by gambling big on one magical trade. He did it by repeating disciplined actions again and again, letting time and compounding do the heavy lifting. And here's the hidden truth. Losses don't break compounding traders. They expect losses. They plan for them. A 2% loss today is just part of the math, not a catastrophe. They don't chase revenge trades to make it back immediately. They move on calmly, knowing consistency erases setbacks. Now let's add one more layer: emotional energy. When you're desperate to get rich quick, every market tick feels like life or death. You're anxious. You can't think straight. But when you shift to the compounding mindset, that pressure disappears. You stop needing to win today. You just need to win over time. The result? You make clearer decisions, you trade less, you respect your rules, and ironically, you make far more money than the impatient gambler. The traders who ignore this principle blow up accounts chasing fast wins. The ones who adopt it quietly build wealth that looks impossible from the outside. This is why I call the compounding mindset the seed of millionaire trading. It transforms $100 from nothing into your ultimate training ground. The way you handle this small account is the rehearsal for how you'll handle $100,000. Same rules, just bigger numbers. If the compounding mindset is the seed, then ruthless patience is the sunlight that keeps it alive. And here's the ugly truth. Most traders never develop it. They want results now. They want to feel like a genius today. And in their rush, they sabotage the very process that could have made them rich. Patience in trading is not passive. It's not just sitting there doing nothing. Ruthless patience is an active choice. It's the decision to wait for only the best setups, to skip mediocre trades even when you feel the itch, and to trust your edge even when weeks go by without a big win. Think about hunters in the wild. The lion doesn't chase every animal it sees. That would burn energy and leave it starving. Instead, it waits, sometimes for hours, sometimes for days. It watches, studies, and when the perfect moment comes, it strikes with deadly precision. That's trading. You're the predator, and the market is the savannah. If you're running after every random setup, you're already dead. The market will tempt you with endless opportunities. Charts will move, candles will form, and you'll feel the urge to act. But here's the paradox. The best traders make their money not by trading more, but by trading less. They filter. They wait. They let 90% of the noise pass them by so they can attack the 10% that truly matters. This is why ruthless patience feels so uncomfortable. It goes against human nature. We're wired for action. When you see the market move, your brain screams, do something. And if you're trading with a small account, the pressure is even worse. You feel like you need to grow it fast, so you force trades that don't deserve your money. And every forced trade teaches you the same painful lesson. Impatience is expensive. Here's the trap most traders fall into. They have a strategy, they know their rules, but they can't sit on their hands. They break discipline the moment boredom kicks in. They confuse activity with progress. But real progress in trading doesn't come from constant activity. It comes from consistent execution of a proven edge. One of the best traders I ever studied had a simple rule. If the market didn't show his exact setup, he didn't trade. Some weeks he placed one trade, some weeks he placed none. His friends laughed at him for being inactive. But while they were bleeding money through overtrading, his account was quietly compounding. Years later, he was the only one still in the game. Patience is also what saves you from blowing up after a loss. Imagine you take a trade that doesn't work out. The impatient trader immediately wants to make it back on the very next setup, often by doubling risk. The patient trader shrugs, accepts the loss, and waits for the next high-quality opportunity. Over time, that patience compounds into survival, and survival is the ultimate edge. Ruthless patience also protects your mental health. When you no longer feel the need to chase every move, trading becomes calmer. You're not glued to the screen 24/7, you're not sweating every candle, and you're not emotionally destroyed after a bad week. You can breathe. And when you can breathe, you can think. Here's the irony. The market actually rewards boredom. The trades that make you yawn because they're so obvious and rule-based, those are usually the ones that pay. The trades that feel exciting, risky, and rushed, those are usually the ones that drain you. Most traders will never master ruthless patience because it feels like doing nothing. But the truth is, patience is doing everything. Every time you resist the urge to force a setup, you're sharpening your edge. Every time you wait for confirmation, you're protecting your capital. And every time you skip a bad trade, you're stacking the odds in your favor. So, here's the law of ruthless patience. The less you need the market to give you a trade, the more the market ends up rewarding you. You can have the compounding mindset. You can even practice ruthless patience. But if you don't master emotional detachment, the market will always find a way to crush you. Because at its core, trading isn't just numbers on a screen, it's a psychological battlefield. Most traders think they're rational. They believe they're making decisions based on logic and strategy. But the moment real money is on the line, something changes. Fear creeps in, greed takes over, ego starts whispering lies, and suddenly, you're no longer following your plan, you're following your emotions. Emotional detachment means this: you trade your system, not your feelings. Your rules dictate your actions, not your excitement, not your fear, not your boredom. You detach your self-worth from the outcome of a single trade. A win doesn't mean you're a genius. A loss doesn't mean you're a failure. They're both just data points inside a much larger sample. Here's the dangerous cycle most traders live in. They win a trade, their confidence spikes, and they immediately increase risk. Then they lose, panic sets in, and they either quit or revenge trade to get it back. This roller coaster destroys accounts. Detachment is stepping off that ride. One way to practice detachment is to shrink your risk until a single trade feels almost irrelevant. If losing $10 on a trade makes you emotional, you're trading too big. Scale down until you can take 10 losses in a row without breaking discipline. Only then will you truly know if your edge works, because you'll be testing the system, not your emotions. Another trick is to reframe losses. Instead of thinking, I lost $20, think, I just paid $20 to collect data about my edge. That small shift turns every outcome, win or lose, into progress. Suddenly, the market is no longer an enemy. It's a teacher. But here's the hardest part. Emotional detachment requires killing your ego. Your ego wants to be right. It wants to call the top, the bottom, the reversal. It wants to brag that you predicted the move before anyone else. But markets don't care about your ego. They punish it. Every great trader has learned this the hard way. Success comes not from being right, but from following rules. Think about professional poker players, and they don't celebrate every hand they win. They don't cry over every hand they lose. They think in probabilities and they play the same way whether they're up or down. That's emotional detachment. And in trading, it's the difference between blowing up and compounding wealth. There's also a deep freedom in detachment. When you stop needing the market to validate you, you stop forcing trades. You stop staring at charts out of fear. You stop chasing moves because you're scared of missing out. You enter trades because they fit your plan, and you exit because the plan told you to, not because your emotions pushed you around. Here's the paradox. The less you care about any single trade, the better you trade. Detachment doesn't mean you're careless. It means you're consistent. You don't let temporary emotions ruin long-term discipline. And here's the brutal truth. If you can't detach, you'll always self-destruct. You'll break rules when it matters most. You'll chase when you should wait. You'll hold losers too long because you hope they'll turn. And you'll cut winners too early because you're scared they'll reverse. Without detachment, you'll never escape the cycle of blowing up, reloading, and blowing up again. But if you do detach, the market becomes just numbers, just probabilities, just execution. And that's the state where trading transforms from chaos into consistency. Even with the compounding mindset, ruthless patience, and emotional detachment, there's one more piece you must master: relentless adaptation. Because the market is alive. It shifts, it evolves, and it punishes anyone who stays stuck in old patterns. The strategy that worked beautifully last year may stop working tomorrow. A setup that gave you consistent wins can suddenly dry up. And this is where most traders die. They cling to what used work, refusing to adapt until the market drains them completely. Relentless adaptation means you're always a student. You're never finished. You're constantly reviewing your trades, studying your results, and asking, what is the market teaching me right now? It's the humility to accept that you don't control the market. You only control how you respond to it. Think of adaptation like evolution. Species that couldn't adapt, dinosaurs, for example, went extinct. The same is true in trading. Those who can't adapt vanish. Those who do evolve into survivors and eventually into predators at the top of the food chain. Here's how relentless adaptation looks in practice. You track your performance weekly and monthly, not just trade by trade. You identify patterns in your wins and losses. You tweak risk management when volatility changes. You refine your edge based on what the market is currently rewarding, not what it rewarded years ago. But adaptation isn't about constantly changing your system at random. That's just chaos. It's about measured adjustments based on real data. If you abandon your strategy after one losing week, you're not adapting. You're panicking. True adaptation is slow, deliberate, and backed by evidence. One of the most powerful habits of top traders is journaling. They record every entry, every exit, every thought they had during the trade. Over time, that journal becomes a mirror. It reveals not only what the market is doing, but also how their own psychology is helping or hurting them. This feedback loop is what fuels relentless adaptation. Here's the beauty of it. Once you embrace adaptation, losses stop being failures. They become feedback. Every losing trade is simply a message saying something needs to be refined. And instead of sulking, you investigate. You learn, you sharpen your edge. This is how you turn setbacks into stepping stones. Now let's tie it all together. If you want to turn $100 into millions, you need 4 pillars. First, the compounding mindset, so you think in decades, not days. Second, ruthless patience, so you only strike when the odds are in your favor. Third, emotional detachment, so you can trade rules instead of feelings. And fourth, relentless adaptations, so you keep evolving as the market evolves. Most traders will never master these. They'll chase shortcuts, gamble big, ride emotional roller coasters, and eventually give up. But for the rare few who adopt all 4 pillars, $100 is no longer just $100. It's the training ground. It's the seed. It's the proof that if you can manage small money with discipline, you can manage large money with power. And here's the ultimate truth. Wealth in trading isn't built in one explosive moment. It's built in silence, in discipline, in repetition. Day after day, trade after trade, year after year. The world won't notice at first. But one day, while everyone else is still chasing shortcuts, you'll quietly look at your account and realize you've done what 99% of traders only dream of. That's how $100 becomes millions. Not through luck, not through gambling, but through mindset, patience, detachment, and adaptation.